You're listening to Dark Time Stories, whether you're driving down an empty highway or watching the clock tick past midnight. You aren't as alone as you think. Let's step into the dark.
I thought it was a prank. I really wish it had been. It happened on a Tuesday night. Nothing special, no storm outside, no creepy abandoned house, no urban legend I did ignore. Just me sitting alone in my apartment at 11:47 pm, half asleep and scrolling through videos I wasn't really watching. Then my phone vibrated. A new voice message had arrived. I glanced at the screen and immediately frowned because the sender was me. Not my name, not a contact pretending to be me, my actual phone number. At first, I laughed. Somebody had obviously spoofed my number because people do that all the time. It wasn't impossible. Curious, I opened the message. The voice note was only 23 seconds long. I pressed play. Static crackled through the speaker for a moment. Then a voice began speaking. My voice. Not similar, not close, not somebody doing an impression. It was exactly my voice. The same tone, the same breathing pattern, even the same slight pause I always took before finishing the sentence. And it sounded terrified. Don't go downstairs. The voice stopped. For a few seconds, there was only breathing. Then it spoke again. If you're hearing this, it's already inside. The message ended. I stared at my phone. At first, I genuinely thought one of my friends was trying to mess with me. But none of them could imitate me that perfectly. Even with AI, something always sounds slightly off. This didn't. It sounded real, worse than real. It sounded like someone recording a warning while experiencing genuine fear. I replayed the message 3 times. Each time, the panic in that voice felt more convincing. Eventually, I checked the sender's information, and that's when my stomach tightened. Because according to the metadata, the message hadn't just been sent from my number, it had been recording 12 hours in the future. I checked again, 11:47 pm. That was the current time. The recording timestamp said 11:42 am tomorrow. I stared at it for nearly a minute. Then I laughed nervously. A software glitch. That had to be it. Phone bugs all the time, apps multifunction, metadata gets corrupted. There was no supernatural explanation. At least that's what I kept telling myself, so I ignored it. At midnight, I brushed my teeth, locked my apartment door, turned off the lights, and went to bed. I woke up at exactly 3:18 am, not because of a nightmare, because of footsteps, slow footsteps, directly above me. Thup, thup, thup. I sat upright immediately. The sound stopped. For a few seconds, there was absolute silence. Then I remembered something. I lived on the top floor. There was no apartment above mine. The footsteps stopped. For nearly a minute, I listened in complete silence, waiting for them to continue. Nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself I must have been dreaming. Maybe the strange voice message had gotten into my head. Maybe I was more unsettled than I wanted to admit. I lay back down. The moment my head touched the pillow, my phone vibrated. Another voice note. My stomach dropped. The sender was still me. The message was 41 seconds long. I hesitated before pressing play. Static crackled through the speaker. Then my voice spoke again. This time it sounded quieter, more exhausted. Don't answer the door. A loud bang echoed somewhere in the background of the recording. My voice flinched, then continued. It's pretending to be people now. Another bang, then in a terrified whisper. I can hear it learning. The message ended. I didn't sleep after that, not even for a minute. I sat awake until sunrise, staring at my phone and trying to think of rational explanation. By morning, nothing unusual had happened. No knocks, no footsteps, No monsters hiding in my apartment, just silence. The daylight made everything seem ridiculous. By noon, I was embarrassed by how seriously I'd taken it. I decided to visit my friend, Marcus. Marcus worked in IT and spent most of his life fixing things that confuse normal people. If anybody could explain strange phone behavior, it was him. I showed him the messages. He listened carefully, then replayed them again. The longer he listened, the more uncomfortable he looked. What's wrong? I asked. Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he zoomed into the audio, waveform, and frowned. Dude, what? These aren't AI generated. I laughed nervously. Okay, then somebody recorded them. Yeah. So, what's the problem? Marcus looked directly at me. The problem is that it sounded exactly like you. I didn't have a response to that. Neither of us did. Then Marcus pointed at the screen. Listen to the background. We replayed the message. At first, I heard nothing unusual. Then, faintly beneath my own voice, there was another sound. A whisper. Not words, not language, just sound. Low, uneven muttering. Like someone trying to imitate human speech without understanding how language actually worked. The hair of my arm stood up. What is that? I don't know. The answer bothered me far more than I expected. That evening, I returned home. The moment I reached my apartment door, I stopped. The door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it. I always locked it. Slowly, I pushed it open. The apartment looked normal. Nothing was missing. Nothing appeared disturbed. For several moments, I thought maybe I did imagine it. Then I noticed a footprint. A single wet footprint on the hallway floor. Barefoot, large, much larger than my own. I stared at it for several seconds, then searched the entire apartment. Every room, every closet, every corner, nothing. No intruder, no explanation. Only that lone footprint sitting in the hallway as if someone had stepped inside and simply chased to exist. At exactly 11:42 pm, my phone vibrated again. Another voice note. I froze. That timestamp, 11:42 pm, exactly 24 hours after the first message claimed it had been recorded. The realization hit me instantly. The timestamps weren't random. They were moving closer, like a countdown. My hands trembled as I opened the message. This time my voice sounded differently, more strained, more desperate. You didn't leave? I told you to leave. Something crashed loudly in the background. My voice screamed. The recording cut off. That was enough. I didn't care if this was a prank, a glitch, or some elaborate psychological breakdown. I wasn't staying. I grabbed a backpack and threw random essential into it. Laptop, wallet, charger, phone. I was halfway to the front door when somebody knocked. 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. At the exact moment, another message arrived, almost as if it had been triggered by the sound. I pressed play. My own voice whispered, Don't open it. The knocking continued. Slow, patient, almost polite. Against every instinct screaming inside me, I stepped toward the door and looked through the peephole. The words seemed to stop because standing outside was me. Not somebody who looked similar, not a stranger, me. Same face, same height, same clothes, same haircut, everything. The figure stood perfectly still in the hallway, looking directly into the peephole, smiling. I stumbled backward so hard I nearly fell. The thing outside never moved, never knocked again. It simply stood there, waiting. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered instantly. A voice spoke. My voice, live, not recorded, not deleted. Live. Don't let it see you. The line disconnected. I didn't think. I ran. Not to the front door, to the fire escape. down 6 flights of stairs and into the street. I didn't stop running until sunrise. For the next 2 days, I stayed in a cheap hotel across town. Nothing happened. No messages, no strange call, no sightings. Slowly, I started convincing myself that the worst was over. Maybe stress had finally gotten to me. Maybe I did suffer some kind of breakdown. Maybe every strange thing had a perfectly normal explanation. Then Marcus called. His voice sounded terrified. Where are you? Hotel. Stay there. A knock from in my stomach. Why? I just saw you. I felt cold all over. What? You were outside my office. No, I wasn't. I know. It smiled at me. The call disconnected. That night, another voice note arrived, only 9 seconds long. My voice said, It's wearing us now. Us, not me, us. I stopped listening after that. I deleted every message, blocked the number, changed phones, changed hotels, none of it mattered. Every morning there was another voice note waiting, always from my own number, always recorded slightly in the future, always sound more exhausted, more hopeless than one day the time stopped showing future dates. The latest message had been recorded at the exact same moment I received it. No delay, no countdown, no future, just now. The final message. My hand shook as I pressed play. At first, there was only breathing. Then my voice spoke. Calm, almost peace. You still think you are the original. You never wonder why the message stopped warning you? I stared at the phone, unable to move, unable to speak. Then my voice laughed softly. Not a cruel laugh, not a mocking laugh, the laugh of somebody who had finally accepted something terrible. You were copy weeks ago. The room felt smaller. The air suddenly felt too thin. The voice continued. The real you sent the first message. The real you ran. The real you lost. Every word felt like ice sliding down my spine. The thing couldn't replace him completely. It made mistakes. It needed memories. It needed time. It needed practice. And you were the practice version. I stared at my reflection in the hotel windows. For the first time, something felt wrong. No physically, no visibly, just wrong. Like looking at photograph you have seen 1,000 times and suddenly realizing one detail doesn't belong. The voice continued. You aren't being haunted. You aren't the survivor. The reflection stared back at me, unmoving. Then, final sentence calm. The sentence I still hear every night. You aren't even human anymore. My heart pounded. No, the word escaped my mouth before I couldn't stop it. But the recording wasn't finished. The real you died before the first message arrived. The audio ended. I don't remember much after that. Days blurred together. Weeks, months, maybe longer. I still receive voice notes sometimes. Not often, just enough to remind me. The strangest part is that I don't recognize the voice anymore. It doesn't sound like me. It sounds like somebody trapped somewhere far away. Somebody desperate. Somebody trying to warn me. And every message ends the same way. A frightened voice whispering from the darkness. It's learning to sound human. And it thinks it's you.